I personally didn't really think a lot of these things were that important until I went through this challenge and was like, dang. This is everything I learned during my 5-week challenge to try and get crazy bodybuilder shredded, completely natural. Completely natural. Am I selling shampoo here? Am I growing in the ground somewhere? Am I in nature? Is this my nature? What am I saying? Welcome back to the YouTube channel, friends. It's great to see you here. My name is Bryan, and if you have just a quick moment, that would mean the world to me if you hit the like button on this video, and also if you subscribe to my channel, that would just melt my heart. Also, if you didn't know, Allie and I have a podcast. It's called Happily Stuck Forever and Always, and it's just a bunch of easy listening and fun conversations. I think you'd really enjoy it. So if you click the link in the description, you can come check us out. You can even watch us on YouTube. It helps round out some of the serious that you might get from some of my videos, because I'm really not that serious of a person. So if you've seen my 5 weeks video, you'll know that it was a pretty crazy experience for me, and I learned so much from it, and I really think you'll find a lot of value in these things I'm gonna share with you today. Now, if you haven't seen my 5 weeks video, just click up above and watch that, and then come right back here so you can get the full picture of what I went through. But without further ado, let's get into this one. And why did I just say without further ado? Am I Shakespearean here? What am I doing? I've got to say, the biggest thing that I learned over the course of these 5 weeks is patience. What I should have done is given myself like 10 to 12 weeks to do this. 5 weeks just wasn't enough. And even though I was already pretty lean at the start of the 5 weeks on July 4th, I just underestimated a little bit how long it would take. To be honest with you, the last couple weeks, my calories were so restricted. I was pushing somewhere close to an 800 to 1,000 calorie deficit every single day. And inevitably, when your calories are this restricted, your hormones such as cortisol completely spike, your metabolism shuts down, and then because of that, your sleep just goes to complete trash. And these things are massive factors when you're trying to burn body fat, and this just wasn't the healthiest way to do it. Now, I will say, when you're just trying to get super lean, there's going to be suffering involved. It's gonna be not very enjoyable. But if I would have at least stretched this out and just maintained closer to a 300 to 500 calorie deficit, I would have been able to keep more of my metabolism and hormones in a normalized state, and in my opinion, this would have given me a little bit better results. Now, don't get me wrong, I still am very, very happy with the results that I was able to get in 5 weeks, but I definitely thought that I was going to be able to get even leaner than this. And one of the big things too is when you're restricting calories this much, your body starts to use muscle as fuel, especially when you're this lean. Your body's just going to naturally do this. And you can actually see in the before videos, I have more muscle. The next thing I learned is the importance of sleep and rest. Now, one of the dangers that I kind of want to warn you of when you're just hyper focused on calories out, how much I'm burning versus what I'm eating, and you only look at those two numbers without considering anything else, you can kind of lean into like, well, if I'm in a bigger deficit today, I'm going to get better results. But unfortunately, that steep deficit again affected my cortisol and stress hormones, and it crashed my metabolism, and this made me sleep horribly. Most nights I would get like 3 or 4 hours of solid sleep, and then I'd just be tossing and turning a bunch. And this is not ideal when you're trying to burn body fat and get super lean. Sleep and recovery is when your body is able to take all of the exercise and all of the tearing down that you've done and recover it so you can get the results. There was some mornings where I'd be awake at like 4 a.m. just being like, should I just go eat something right now so I can try and go back to sleep? I never did it, but it was rough. And again, this also speaks to the fact that I really should have stretched this out over the course of 10 to 12 weeks. Now, another thing that I spent pretty much every week trying to figure out is water retention. And specifically, I was really trying to figure out how to flush that fluid that was just under the skin, also known as subcutaneous fluid. As I got closer to the end of the 5 weeks and I was really starting to look pretty shredded, I would look the most lean right when I woke up every morning. And then I'd start moving around throughout the day, I'd start working out, I'd be drinking fluids. Halfway through the day, I would look a lot more watery than I did first thing in the morning. Now, I tried a bunch of different stuff to see how I could flush that fluid, especially when it came time to take photos. And the biggest thing that worked for me was literally just laying in the hot sun. It definitely dehydrated me quite a bit because I was literally laying in the sun in like 100-degree temperatures for like 45 minutes to an hour. And I tried a bunch of different stuff, and this by far was the most effective. There's a lot of bodybuilders out there who try and cut sodium, try and cut water before a show. When you're trying to do this naturally, a lot of those things do not need to be messed with. Your body is super smart and it's gonna adapt to hard water cuts and that kind of thing. And typically you're not gonna get the results that you're hoping for. So for me, I really kept all my water pretty much the same. I kept my sodium, my electrolytes were all the same. And again, I just laid out in the sun, and that really gave me a much drier look, and it was honestly quite effective. Now, something else that really helped my fluid retention and just overall bettered my state of being during this challenge was ensuring that I was hitting my potassium goals. Potassium is a crazy important mineral, and every person needs between 3,500 and 4,700 milligrams of potassium every single day. To put that into perspective, that's like eating 10 bananas. Now, I don't know about you, but I personally don't eat that many bananas every day, and I don't want to know what 10 bananas looks like coming out the opposite end. But ultimately, potassium helps regulate your fluid retention, it helps your nervous system function properly, it also helps your muscles contract properly, including your heart, and this also equates to 30% of the daily energy that you have and that you're gonna use. Now, I figured out all this potassium stuff like 2 weeks into this. As soon as I started upping my potassium intake, I immediately felt better, I felt more energized, it even helped with some of the brain fog. So if you don't get anything else from this video, potassium is crazy important. I was personally using an electrolyte supplement that had 1,000 milligrams of potassium, but I would just do 1 scoop of that. I would also source my potassium from San Marzano tomatoes. They're just canned tomatoes, but they're very high potassium content for very little calories. I was also eating plenty of fish like salmon and other vegetables that are higher in potassium content. I do have to say, I saw some of my most insane results when I carb depleted. I removed carbs from the diet, did keto for a few days, and I was drinking a ton of water, like 200 fluid ounces of water each one of those days. I was carb depleting, and I saw some crazy results. Also, when I was drinking all of that water, the skin specifically on my face just started to glow, like I had just gotten out of a facial treatment or something. It was crazy. If you're trying to make your face shiny and glowing, in healthy looking skin, start drinking a bunch of water, and within like a day, you'll probably see like a really big difference. Don't just take my word for it. I was peeing a lot, but my face looked amazing. It's some of the most basic stuff. Potassium, drinking water. Why do we forget to do these things? Why do we think they're not important when they are? I've got to say, the biggest thing that my Apple Watch did not take into consideration was the fact that my metabolism, my hormones, all of these things that the Apple Watch just doesn't measure, they were all pretty much tanked. Especially weeks like 3, 4, and 5, everything was kind of in shutdown mode. So I would say the leaner I got, the less accurate my Apple Watch got. It was maybe like 70% accurate, as opposed to when I'm not dieting super hard, I feel like it's maybe between 80 and 90% accurate. But in hindsight, if I would have stretched this out over 10 or 12 weeks, I think I would have gotten more accuracy out of it and ultimately better results. I was doing a lot more than I thought I would have had to do for this challenge. One of the main things was that I was also having to cook all of my meals, as well as film all of this and create the content for this video, and do all of this while being extremely exhausted. This challenge also put a bit of a strain on my relationship with Allie, and this was simply because I was just so dead focused on getting to August 5th. I was like blocking out everything else. This was by no fault of Allie's at all. She was just being supportive, and she was amazing throughout all of it. I wouldn't be who I am today without her. She's really an incredible person. She's the love of my life, but she definitely felt a little bit just disconnected from me. It was just hard for me to be like my regular, happy, normal self with her. I think there's a lot of people out there that want to do something like this, try and get crazy shredded, or maybe be a bodybuilder of some sort, but they don't realize that this really affects those closest around them, especially if those people are eating normal normally and living normally and not trying to do a very restrictive diet, it creates a little bit of a divide, and that's something to definitely consider. We were both very happy once I got to August 5th and I was just done with it. The mental growth coming out of this has been incredible. I'm so much more focused. I've got so much more mental clarity for the goals and things I'm trying to achieve. I think one of the biggest things I learned just by nature of being in a state of depravity for so long is gratitude. I came out of this just so thankful to have a meal and to have a good night's sleep. You take these things for granted. I took these things for granted. And I think when you kind of go down the road of constantly living in a surplus, constantly over consuming, you're just looking for the next thing, which is why I really do believe, from maybe more of a philosophical standpoint, that experiencing some forms of deficit and some forms of suffering can really help teach you to be thankful for what you have. And I'm not trying to promote any kind of extreme dieting like what I did here, but I just think naturally as humans, when we go through things that are hard, you come out of it a lot more thankful than when you're just living a comfy life with your feet up and just eating all you want, living like you're the king of your castle. It's just my thoughts. Take that for what it is. Add a little pinch of salt to it. About halfway through this challenge, my brain literally just kind of numbed out. The more I just kept pushing past my brain signals to stop working out or eat more, my brain just stopped signaling. And it was a pretty crazy feeling. I truly felt like I was in this foggy, numb kind of bubble, but I definitely came out of it with quite a hardened mental dexterity to feel like I can literally accomplish anything. It's hard for me to even get anxious about anything anymore. I've mentally switched. It was pretty crazy. I wanna look good for you. Ultimately, what this challenge taught me is that balance and moderation are always going to win. I really tried to crash this thing over 5 weeks, and really not intentionally. I was thinking 5 weeks would have been enough. Coming out of this, I realized how important it is living in a more balanced way that prioritizes exercise, but also prioritizes rest. Will I ever do a challenge like this again? Probably not. Maybe in 2023 I might really take my time with this and try and do something like this, but I'm really not trying to be a bodybuilder. I want to make it very clear that this 5-week challenge was not me being like, hey, this is me being healthy. It's pushing super hard on one end of the spectrum where I'm trying to get crazy shredded. It's why I put a specific end date, so I wasn't just endlessly trying to do some crazy diet for months on end. It is kind of weird, that feeling like I don't really have much of a goal to work towards, but why can't just balance and moderation be a good goal that's just ongoing, you know? When you try and force these types of results, you're probably going to see a detriment to your progress. And that's my opinion, but I think if you asked a lot of people in this industry, they'd probably tell you the same thing. If you're really trying to get super lean, think of it as like a slow roast. You're not trying to flash fry the fat off your body. That slow and steady, low temperature, nice roast. Where why this analogy sucks, actually. I kind of makes sense, but you get it. Just go sit in a barbecue and you're gonna be shredded. Well, that's everything I learned from this 5-week challenge. I really hope you got something out of this video. Also, if you need good music for your videos, do me a quick favor and go to moodsounddesign.com. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Really do appreciate the ongoing support. It means the world to me, and I can't wait to see you on the next video. Peace. My dog is drinking water, but what? I can't get mad. Can I get mad at him for drinking water while I'm trying to film a YouTube video? He's just working on his fluid retention. It's fine. He goes to his water bowl and drinks water for 3 minutes straight. He must be listening to me film this video. Probably dang, Bryan, I want glowy, shiny skin like you. So I'm gonna start drinking water. I just need him to stop. And now he's going outside. Cheers.
I wanna look good for you. I wanna do the things that a woman should do. I wanna treat you right, hug you tight, love you so much.